Well, Alyssa, it's great to have you here on Market Movers. Just a little bit about us. We interview movers and shakers in the industry in their own respective industries. And we're here today to learn a little bit more about you and what you have done in the wealth management space in your current endeavor right now as a fractional COO. So if you could just go ahead and give a little bit of background about yourself and how you started this journey.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really exciting. It has been a journey, hasn't it? I have been a chief operating officer for almost 10 years, and I've worked in a variety of industries. I've worked in startup, I've worked in growth, I've worked in mature industries, I've worked in professional sports, I've worked in restaurant franchising, I've worked in a startup. I built a consumer product startup. And I've also most recently found myself in wealth management since 2018. So it definitely has been a journey, always on the operations side. I've always been a bit of a nerd, stuff like that. So finding myself in a COO position has been amazing. And I really do appreciate the challenges and opportunity for me to continue to learn and grow all the time.
Your journey in the space, these different types of industries, how do they all parallel into like what you're currently working on?
So essentially, I like to work at what I consider the core of a business operation. So that's the people, the operations, and the technology. And any business needs that. So luckily, my skills have been very transferable as I've moved through industries. I think getting to the core of what makes a business run and how they're able to do what they do and serve clients or, products or what have you.
Can you define what a COO does, how you've helped these companies grow?
Yeah. It's easier to find what a COO doesn't do, but a COO is, as a chief operating officer, you're really responsible for the operation and the running of the business. And so depending on the industry you're in, that can kind of take on different hats. But effectively, a COO would be in charge of the operations, the people, the financial would roll up into COO as well, technology, all of those really core elements of the business. So it doesn't have as much to do with sales or business development, but the running of the company itself is really what the COO is all about.
Can you talk a little bit about your favorite aspects or component of that role? Because you're in wealth management, right? So finance, you're saying, is just one component. So is that like your favorite part or niche of the role that you've, found yourself doing, I think, more of?
Yeah, it's hard to, I think, narrow it down. It really depends on the day for me. So I love people and I love the development of teams and individuals and departments and all of that. I really do like having an opportunity to stretch someone a little farther than they thought they could go, but you knew they could. And then watching that light turn on when they realize like, oh, I can do this. So I really do love the team and the people development aspect, but also just the operations in general. Because what I try to do is not only figure out what's the most appropriate process or procedure, try to streamline things. It's how do we take the people and their perspective into account? How do we take the technology into account to then leverage it so 1 + 1 can equal 3? And so that's the part that I like, is that puzzle, that intersection of the people, the ops, and the tech. That's really where I light up.
So how do you help smaller businesses now in your current role and your current endeavor as a fractional?
So as a fractional COO, I'm able to help businesses who maybe don't have the level of resources that a larger firm would have. So a lot of the firms I'm working with are considered small businesses based on their market concentration, their revenue team size, right? And they're the ones that need it the most. They would really benefit from having infrastructure and process and standard operating procedures and the appropriate technology. So as a fractional COO, I'm able to help businesses that may not be able to afford a full-time kind of C-suite, even if it's just an individual, let alone a team. But I have the experience of working with those larger companies and seeing where they're going to go, what kind of obstacles are going to hit with all of these kind of growth areas in wealth management. And I can help set them up now so that they can bypass some of the, let's just say, bumps and bruises along the way.
Can you talk a little bit about challenges you faced in the past and how they paralleled into the small business aspect of like what you're doing?
I think one of the areas where I had a very massive education was working in a startup environment. everybody's wearing lots of hats, and it's a lot of times the people are doing what needs to be done. It's not necessarily something that has been looked at from a macro perspective to say, hey, these are the roles we need to have, and these are the job duties and descriptions of each role. It's, hey, we need someone to do X, and you have a pulse. Come here, please do this, right? So I understand, because I have worked in the startup environment, how firms come to that point where their roles and job descriptions and job duties and expectations aren't objectively logical, but I understand that this was just what we needed to do to get by or put the Band-Aid on or what have you, as they're continuing to try to grow and scale the best they can. So working in the startup environment, I think, helps me understand when I do come into a firm that's been successful for 10, 20, 30 years. And if I take a step out and look at some of the, delegations of duties and expectations and think, why would this role be doing this job? I'm able to come back to that startup world and remember, I see. If someone has tenure, it's very likely that they were just asked to chip in and help. And I love that people typically have the spirit to say yes. So working in the startup environment, I think, has helped me understand how some firms kind of come to the positions that they're in when I start working with them. And I think also working with professional sports and working with athletes.
How is that?
It has helped me. So if you are, this is no offense to anyone who is in sales, the love of my life is in sales. So I'll just put that out there. Sometimes in sales, there may be some egos and a high level of confidence, some new procedure or what have you that they don't see as important, or maybe they don't recognize the value in, really. So having worked with professional athletes for years, I have become adept at reading the energy and kind of learning how to approach people and really understand them, who they are, what motivates them, what they care about, so that when I'm coming to them and saying, hey, we need to make this adjustment or change, or here's this new thing, or we're taking this other thing away, I know how to frame it to them so that it makes sense in their world from their perspective. And that helps a lot to have a smoother implementation. And that's something not just with particular roles, it's with everyone, that I really make a concerted effort to understand who the people are, because that's really business. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And so making that concerted effort to really understand who's around me, what their strengths and weaknesses and motivations are, it makes it so much more helpful to do my job. And a lot of that comes from working in professional sports and just being around all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about your processes and your strategies at your current position and what you do for clients and how you offer a seamless approach to your service.
Okay. Yeah. So shocker, a COO has a lot of process. So in terms of helping to assess whether or not a client relationship is going to be a good one, I start with, I call it the firm accelerator approach. And so essentially we go through an assess, define, design, and enable phase. In the assessment phase, I have kind of an onboarding questionnaire. It really just helps to highlight some of the gaps so that we can have a very focused conversation. I don't like to approach clients with a one-size-fits-all, and here's my situation, and this is how you should run your business, when I don't even know them and I don't even understand their company intimately. If I don't have...
But you're not an expert sometimes in a specific industry, right? Yeah. So you're trying to learn from them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to retain some knowledge.
Absolutely. There's a lot of learning in the beginning. There's definitely a period where I am trying to kind of upskill. And even if it's an industry I've worked in, like wealth management, there's still new things going on. There's still new situations I'm going to come across. And because there's been so much consolidation in the industry, there's a lot of history. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions and tuck-ins and all of this activity happening. It's really important to understand the history and kind of how they came to be, where they are, so that I understand how to approach them and how I can help them with the things that I know that I'm able to do. So that assessment phase really is an opportunity for me to learn about them and to figure out if I am the right fit to work with them. Because I wouldn't want to start working with a client if I'm not the best person to do so. And I know a lot. I don't know everything. And so I'm a constant lifelong learner. And I really do appreciate when people understand who they are and where they're at and what you know and what you don't know. And it's okay to raise your hand if you don't know. And so if I am approached by a client who is not going to be serviced the best by me, then I'll say so. And so that initial assessment phase, I think, is extremely important to make sure that both of us understand each other and where we're coming from, and we understand each other's expectations and whether or not we're going to be able to meet them. Because as much as I wish, my job is to come in and wave a magic wand and then just magic happens. That's not how it goes. The client, the firm, the team, they're going to be part of the process. And so if it's not something that they're really looking for or ready for or, what have you, then that's okay. And we'll make a different decision at that point.
Yeah, the assessment phase is always so important and integral in a lot of businesses, especially surface-based industries. So you need to make sure you have synergy with who you're working with.
Yeah.
And honestly understand a little bit about their business. I mean, you don't have to know everything about it, but you have to be passionate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that that's what I come across a lot, is a lot of passion. And timing's important. Is this the right time to, start something like this? Because working with a fractional COO, I'm going to be looking under all the covers and trying to figure, and again, it's really so that I truly understand the company on that nuanced level so that I'm able to make decisions and adjustments that are going to benefit them. So I can't operate in a silo. So it really is a partnership and needs to be a partnership. And kind of that access to information and honesty and candor are the foundations and the building blocks of having a successful partnership. And that's the only way that I'm able to be successful with my clients.
At what phase in a business would it be beneficial to hire someone of your, expertise on?
In terms of the size, the team or...
At what point does a business need a fractional COO?
I typically work with clients that are between 5 to 25 million in revenue because they have the level of complexity where I could actually come in and make a difference. If they're at a kind of less advanced stage, it's difficult to kind of come in and move the needle. And I think that's where consultants might be really helpful to come in and give advice and to help on a project basis. But then when you're talking about a fractional executive, there needs to be a certain layer of complexity for us to be able to be super effective. And so I think that revenue range, the team size is probably going to be between 10 and 75 people. So again, it's enough. It's not overwhelming, but it's also not, 2 to 3 folks at that point. So I think that's a good kind of sweet spot. And that's really where I've been focusing.
So what approaches do you use for collaborations within, the companies that hire you?
I think one of the biggest things is to understand that you're working with people and you're working with a team, and there's a dynamic of working with the team, right? So trying to make sure that the team is able to be cohesive, there's lots of different layers there. So you need to know who is on your team, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are their motivations, what's their history with the firm, what is their career trajectory or what they want, really. There are a lot of different nuances to understand each individual, but then to understand how the individuals interact with one another. And so I think that just kind of basic foundation of trying to understand who are the players on the team, how are they playing together right now? Is there any friction? Is there any uncertainty? How can I come in and help to alleviate some of those issues? And so that's where I start, is to understand the people and to understand who they are and where they are and where they would like to be. And how am I going to be able to carve out that path to get them there? And so, some of it's fun too. You do social activities, or I really like friendly competition as a way to bring teams together. And so there's lots of different techniques, but really the core of it is just understanding your people and who they are and what they want and how you can help them.
Can you give an example of how you've led some teams?
Sure. The competition or just examples of leadership. I try to lead by example. I'm one of those people who I will be washing my cup in the sink just like everybody else. It doesn't matter what my title is or if I have an assistant or what have you. There's, on one side, it's difficult because I am all about highest and best use of your time in terms of your work. But when it comes to the other things, the interaction with people, no one's too good for any of it, right? We're all the same. And so I try to kind of find that balance with my team. And I think it helps to start building trust when they see that I will roll my sleeves up too and will do the hard things. So even if it's something that's not glamorous, there have been times where we had to do a huge data project and I had to pull in people from multiple departments. We had 18 people staying late after hours to just jam it out. So unfortunately, ChatGPT can't do everything. And so we had to do what we had to do. So we just needed the man and woman power. And I inspired people to come and to be involved, but also we had pizza and we had soda and music and we made it more fun. But I was doing it too. I was jamming out in Excel just like everybody else. And so I think having those moments where we are bringing people together, but they see their leaders being involved in it as well, I think that really helps to show yourself as a type of leader that I hope that I am and that I hope people see me to be. So those are some of the areas that I think are kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse of leadership in my eyes.
Is that like an effective way to build trust, do you feel?
I absolutely think so. When I ask someone, how are you? I care about what they're saying back. I pay attention. I want to know about their lives outside of work. I want to know if there's anything I can help support them with. It doesn't necessarily just have to be, their specific job role or what have you. And I try my best to build trust and transparency with my teams. And so they have to see candor from me so that they're comfortable to give it back. And so that's another area that I think helps to build trust is to have an appropriate level of transparency with your team. So if it is something you're able to share, why not? You don't need to hide because I don't want them to hide when they're talking to me. I want them to be honest and I want them to tell me, hey, I'm having a rough time right now. Like, I need some help. But I don't ever want my team to feel like I'm this perfect kind of person on a pedestal. Like, I'll let them know if I stumble with something or I've struggled with things in the past or, something's difficult because I want them to see that I'm a person too, so that they can be honest about their humanness with me.
So what is your long-term vision and your long-term goal for your current role as a fractional COO?
I think the long-term vision would be to get to the place of having a more comprehensive offering, right? So for C-suite power partners, I'd love to have C-suite experts in lots of different areas, different than my own, so that we could really come in as the C-suite power partner of our clients and take care of whatever they need on that executive level. And I really do love the fractional space, being able to get in there and roll your sleeves up and make a difference, because I think there are challenges sometimes with a classic consulting model. If a firm doesn't have people on staff who can take all of that great advice and then put it into practice, that's where I think a fractional really shines, is we are coming in, giving the advice, we're giving customized advice based on your company, and then we're actually implementing that change for you. So I'd love to be able to do it in a more comprehensive way with a full C-suite offering one day.
How do you see the fractional space evolving and then the COO specific role evolving in consulting?
I think the fractional space is exploding already. I hadn't even heard the word fractional 5 years ago, and now it's everywhere, right? But I really think, let's just talk about wealth management, right? I entered wealth management in 2018. As of last year, there were 42,000 registered investment advisory firms. So essentially independent firms, fiduciaries. Of those 42,000, 35,000 of them, so 83%, are less than 500 million in assets under management. What that means is these are small businesses based on their market concentration, their team size, their revenue. 83% of all wealth management firms are small businesses. They're the ones that need the most help. I've worked in that top percentile of firms. They'll be all right. The smaller ones are the ones that really need that hand to guide them through all of the obstacles that they're going to face. And that's where I think being a fractional executive is so special, because with my expertise and what I'm able to accomplish for a firm, that's going to allow them to just catapult forward. And otherwise, it will be a longer, harder road. And it's not to say they can't do it, but it will be a lot more difficult. And so that's what I'm so excited about, seeing such an explosion of fractional executives, because we can help all of these small business owners in different industries so that they can have a fighting chance. I mean, there's so much consolidation happening all around us. How are they supposed to compete with that? And so if they want to continue to build their business, I want to help them build that infrastructure that's going to allow them to grow and scale.
So you're not afraid of competition?
No, I don't mind that. I was doing CBD products back in 2013 when the FDA was coming for us. So I don't mind.
Yeah. That's great, Alyssa. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Can you plug in your company website, your company name, where people can find you?
Sure. My website is csuitepower.com. We have some information up already and result stories and things of that nature if people are interested in seeing how we can help. But also I am on LinkedIn, Alyssa Phillips, C-Suite Power. I'm out there. So if you'd like to get in touch.
Well, it was great having you, Alyssa. Thank you for coming on. And I hope that we can, touch base in the future and see how far C-Suite has grown.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been awesome to be here.
Thank you.